It's great to be joined with you. You do, obviously, the Brewers. You've done them for a while. You do all this national stuff as well. Nationally, what are people saying about the Orioles? What are they talking about? What's the conversation about them now?
I was just talking to your manager, and I was telling both your manager and your general manager that you guys are the buzz of baseball. Last night I did a TBS game with Ron Darling. We were in Atlanta, so we have a Mets-Braves game last night. And the Orioles are on everybody's mind. And I had to say to myself, I don't think I've ever had a conversation about the Birds at Truist Park in Atlanta before. But talking to all their personnel, they knew the Brewers were playing Baltimore. And so it was a major conversation. You've got great people running the organization. I think Brandon's just like one of these really interesting guys. We know him from the Cubs days. You know, he was there prior to Joe Maddon, and then he was with Joe Maddon. He had been the bench coach. He'd been in player development, so he kind of knew a little bit about Hyde prior to his time as the manager in Baltimore. But what a great hire that was. We never liked him as a Cub because Brewers and Cubs don't mix well together. But, you know, nowadays with you guys, we're big fans.
Yeah, they've done a great job, obviously. And, you know, expectations for this team. What do you think this Orioles club can be?
Well, I just remember going back there 10 years ago and calling a playoff series for TBS in Baltimore is one of the coolest experiences that I've had calling games for TBS. And I hope they can get there again, because to go back into Baltimore with that fan base in that ballpark, which is still one of my favorites in all of Major League Baseball, obviously with the farm system, with the talent you guys have, with your bullpen, let's face it, it all ends up in the bullpen. You've got electric arms in your pen, and you've got a couple of starting pitchers. As you know, I'm not telling you anything you guys don't know, but from the outside, it feels a lot like Woodruff and Burns. When Woodruff and Burns were a little bit up and down, but with great talent, electric stuff, all of a sudden you knew they were going to pop. And when they pop, all of a sudden you have the ability to have an ace and a co-ace. That's what the Brewers have developed. You guys are going to have the same thing. So I would say expectations should be very high right now, and Baltimore should be in a position where they expect to challenge for the division, and then playoff time you just let it fly, and hopefully you're healthy, you catch a heater like the Braves did a couple of years ago with their relievers, their three lefties that nobody dreamed would be that good, and then you can ride it into something special.
I want to get back to you about Corbin Burns in just a second, but for you, this is the first time that you've seen Adley Rutschman play in person. What's your level of excitement for that?
I'm really excited to see him because there's nothing I love more than a great catcher. As much as I love the Jim Palmer types, and he's sitting right here.
Yes, he is.
I always love great catching, and you know, I was a catcher in college, and to have a catcher who is not just a great catcher inside the game that's well respected, but to also be a superstar in the game and to be one of the elite players in the game, that fires me up. So I love to watch players like that, and I've followed him a lot, watched a lot of your games. He is a guy that is going to be one of the faces of baseball, in my opinion, and to be a catcher and be that is really cool. And I think that is the level of expectation for him, and I can't wait to watch him play tonight.
So he's going to play, and then I want to ask you about Corbin Burns, who's going to be starting for you guys since probably the All-Star game of last year. He hasn't been quite as sharp as he was since about 2020. What has been going on with Corbin Burns over this last season?
Well, if you want to go just on the data, the cutter, so his whiff rate is down. He's not getting the swings and misses. And let's maybe, this will be great for Jim to break down in your game, but he's probably not getting the chases that he was. Now, is that because hitters are starting to get to know him a little better? There's a little more video on it. His cutter is filthy. And it was one of the most elite pitches in the game for a couple of years. In his Cy Young year, of course. I would say it's getting a little bigger, so the cutter's getting a little bigger. He's not getting the swings and misses. The data would bear that out. At the same time, man, he is a bulldog competitor. And he's tried to add a little bit of a sinker to the cutter. That's a really hard combination. This is all what I'm hearing from the Brewers and the people who are in the know. So we'll see how he goes tonight. You know, he's not been dominant, but he's still way above average. It also hurts him that the other guy, the other ace, Brandon Woodruff, is on the injured list. I think when you put those two guys together in the starting rotation, now all of a sudden you have two guys that are carrying a lot of that burden together as tops of rotation type performers. And I think that's affected him because he knows his day has to be a great day. And it's typically a day where you need to save a little bit of the bullpen. So I think all that's kind of coming together. Burns is he's still one of the great pitchers in the game. And I think by season's end, if he stays healthy, he'll be in the Cy Young conversation, in my opinion, just because his stuff is electric. There'll be moments today when your partner's going to say, like, wow, how does anybody hit this? And then there are moments when he kind of gets in cruise control and he could run into some danger. But generally speaking, he's been elite.
Well, B.A., thanks for the time. Thanks for doing this on your birthday, by the way.
Oh,
Happy birthday to you.
I appreciate that.
And hopefully you're calling some Orioles baseball in October.
Oh, man, I would love it. Now, we have the National League this year. So it's going to have to be next year. I'm going to be calling Orioles playoff baseball.
No, it sounds great. You already had that big Delman Young moment, and hopefully the Orioles will supply you with some more down the road.
Delman Young, that was my favorite moment. J.J. Hardy scored from first with a piano on his back.
And they still play the highlight all the time.
Oh, they do?
They still play it all the time.
That's one of my favorite moments I've ever had in the playoffs, yeah. Good to be with you, man.
Good to be with you,
Glad
brother.
to hear all your success, too.
Thank you.